Hi everyone, Richard here at Calvin Wazoo, bringing you another video, and it's another contest entry. There are a lot of contests going on, celebrating a variety of benchmarks, subscribers growing, etc., whatever. They're fun, I enjoy them, they're great content ideas for many of these, and this one is from Rob Walker, who has the channel Let the Music Play. I believe he's from Manchester region of England. Forgive me if I got that incorrect, Rob. He's got a really interesting list of questions. I should say it's one question to reply with, a list. And that is, bands that or performers that you wished you had seen live. And I'm presuming, that for the most part you can't see them live because they're now either dead or the band is completely disbanded. So you wouldn't be able to see them. I've seen a lot of music in my life, and I've been very fortunate to see as many different concerts. When I think back on it, I was pretty lucky. Gosh, I know that there are people who were even luckier and were able to say that, yeah, I saw the Beatles at Shea Stadium, or I saw them in the Hollywood Bowl, or they saw Jethro Tull, or they saw Cream. I remember one friend of mine told me about, we saw Cream, man, and right at the start of the show, Jack Bruce told the crowd, "We are not playing Sunshine of Your Love." But anyway, while they are all examples of bands that I did not see and probably wish I could have, they're not on my list. But let me get to it. Rob was saying show 5, but he also said up to 10. So I'm, bending the rules a little bit. And as Mazzy says, it's my channel. Okay. The first one I want to go with is get this one with it's a CD, but Maria Callas. I really, really would have liked to have seen her perform. I like opera. I've been to some operas. A friend of mine has often gets season tickets to the Lyric Opera here in Chicago. So I've gone with him to see several operas. But this particular opera, even before I saw operas, I was buying opera CDs. There was the magazine Stereo Review, and it would do like gradings of what were the best recordings to get for orchestral and other classes. Because there's tons and tons of records out there and CDs of orchestral music and choral music, and the just like with vinyl, the pressings are not all equal, and the recordings on CD are not all equal either. And this one was the recommended one to get on CD, and I did, and I just love her voice. It is just so amazing, and I seriously wish I got to see an opera with Maria Callas in it. Oh, especially if it would have been the Barber of Seville. That would have been just incredibly awesome. Now, Rob showed this as well. He showed the album Sandinista, which I was thinking about showing, but I decided to go with London Calling. But yeah, The Clash. And the story is I was living in Tucson, Arizona at the time The Clash was touring for the Sandinista album, and they were playing in Tucson. But I had to work, and I couldn't get the night off, so I was unable to attend the show. And like the next day, or it was within a few days of the concert, in a mall there in Tucson, in a record store, and I buy Sandinista, and I come up to the checkout, and there's this huge lurch kind of looking guy, shaved head, and just this big guy with this big like gash that's all stitched up on his cheekbone, and his eyes are all bruised up. And so I'm going to pay for my Sandinista, and he's like, wow, this is such a killer album. Did you go to the show last night? I think it was the day after. And I said, no, man, I had to work. I couldn't go. And he says, oh, the show was great. That's how I got this. So maybe I'm kind of glad I wasn't there at the show, but seriously, I would have loved to have seen a Clash concert. Another one that I had an opportunity, but didn't know about the show in time in order to go, and that is Midnight Oil. I still love this band, but I was like seriously into Midnight Oil at the time of their releases, early 80s up into the early 90s. And just within the last couple of years, they got together again and they did a tour. And they played in Chicago in a small venue, kind of a converted theater venue, that I had been to some shows for other bands before, that's like a half mile away from me. And I, when I found out about it, I immediately checked to see, but tickets were gone. They were sold out. I should have just showed up, because my understanding was they were selling tickets the night of the show. And they weren't necessarily scalpers, but they were selling tickets for cost. And I could have gone, and they played this album in its entirety. It's the album, titled 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, counting down 10 to 1. They played this in its entirety, and then they played some other songs as well as part of an encore, I believe. And so, man, I was just kicking myself for, again, not getting in on that show. This one, definitely, I really regret that I did not take the opportunities when they presented themselves that I could see David Bowie. And the one time where he was playing that it was reasonably convenient for me to get to the show would have been about the time of the Tower Philadelphia tour. And he was playing in Michigan, and I think it was Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is where I started going to college at Western Michigan University. And I lived to the north a couple hours. So, but again, I couldn't go, couldn't make it to the show. And I didn't choose, I don't have the, Live at the Tower in Philadelphia, because I never really liked that recording. This one, however, I like this live recording. And it's a bit later, when this one was released, but I do like it better than that. But yeah, David Bowie is one that I really wished I had seen. Another person that I really wanted to see would have been Lou Reed, and I'm not necessarily saying Velvet Underground Lou Reed, but when he was starting his solo stuff, and the concert in particular that is represented in these two, Rock and Roll Animal and Lou Reed Live. These are recordings from the same show, and just blistering, amazing. And this is when he had Steve Hunter playing guitar and touring with him. And Steve Hunter had such an unbelievable and positive influence on Lou Reed's direction, I think, for subsequent releases. Just killer guitar solos, the sort of dueling guitar solos that you hear on this one, Lou Reed Live for Oh Jim. It's just, I just listen to it. Every time I listen to it, it's like I get the rigors. I really wished I could have been able to see that show, that particular tour. Another band, the B-52s. I really would have liked to have seen the B-52s. They were, when I was in college out in Tucson, they were touring around. I can't remember if they had a show in Tucson when I was living there. But definitely, remember listening to the music, and I certainly, if I did have the chance, I am pretty sure, I think I would have definitely ponied up the coin so that I could go. Ponied up the coin. Back in those days, back in the day, that phrase from, us oldsters, but, back then, it was an expensive concert if your ticket cost $10. Now, another band I wish I would have seen is Pink Floyd, but not just Pink Floyd at any time. I mean, I love all of Pink Floyd's material, but the Syd Barrett era, that's what I really, really would have liked to have seen. So that's why I'm choosing, this one. Even before they went in to record their first album, which at that time Syd was beginning to disintegrate, during the recording sessions for The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. He was already slipping off the edge at that time. But, prior to that, and a lot of people don't realize that Pink Floyd was a rhythm and blues band before they got into all the psychedelic stuff. They were a rhythm and blues cover band and did some of their own, songs as well. But that era with Syd Barrett and the songwriting that he was doing and the playing, wow. The recordings that I have listened to, and there are still some, I guess, bootlegs that I would love to get. I think the concert in Copenhagen that they did, and this would have been after Piper was released and before they were going to go into the studio for A Saucer Full of Secrets, I think. There's a bootleg of I think it was a Copenhagen show that reportedly Syd was just brilliant. It was one of because he had a lot of issues on that particular tour where, he wouldn't play. I guess there's stories where he would just like detune the strings until they were just hanging from his guitar and just stand there. That's when they started bringing in Gilmore to play, but he would be like semi off stage. He wouldn't be out on there, so that people didn't realize that it wasn't Barrett playing, but it was Gilmore playing to cover for these times. But apparently this Copenhagen show was absolutely brilliant. I'd love to get that bootleg. I'd never see it. And I'm sure it's priced beyond my ability to ever acquire. Another band that I really would have liked to have seen live is Sonic Youth. Daydream Nation is not my favorite, but it is really an outstanding album. I mean, it's just by minuscule degrees that I like the album Goo better. But this one I thought it showed, you could see the signatures by Steve Shelley and Thurston Moore, whom I met at a theater venue in Chicago a couple of years ago where they were sort of touring together to promote this documentary film. And so I waited around so that I could get them to sign my covers. And Thurston Moore, delightful, unpretentious man, just a really, really nice man. Steve Shelley was a bit standoffish. You know, I'm not holding that against him, but he really was kind of standoffish, and he wasn't that willing to sign my covers until Thurston signed and started talking. But man, I would have loved to have seen one of their shows. And I was going to look this up so I could remember the band, but they played in Chicago as the opening act for, it was a rap group, and it's an infamous show because here they're the opening act for this show for the rap group with Flava Flav. Trying to remember who it is, and now I'm having a brain fart. But it was like a really Thurston Moore was talking about it in this little tour thing that they were doing in a Q&A, and it says this was like the audience was like not ready for them. They came to see it wasn't NWA, it was Public Enemy. Yeah, I think it was Public Enemy. And that's what they came to see. And it just, the crowd was nearly stunned into silence, I guess. This band, The Tubes, I would have liked to have seen them, particularly the tour for this album, all because I was infatuated with this notion of Fee Wayville throwing out pills to the audience during the song White Punks on Dope, which this is a solid album, but side 2, it has White Punks on Dope and Mondo Bondage and Boy Crazy and, what's the other one? What Do You Want From Life? Played it over and over and over and over again. And I had read that during live performances, during White Punks on Dope, Fee Wayville would be grabbing from this bag what looked like Quaaludes, and he was throwing them out to the crowd, and police and concert security would rush up and grab them, thinking they were real drugs, and, to have them analyzed to see if they could bust the band. But, it was candy that he was throwing out to the stage, as far as I know. But it's just an incredible album. I have a few other Tubes albums. But to have seen a show, that would have just, oh man. Now, this last one I'm going to show is a little bit of a cheat because I did see her live, but it wasn't her concert. And that's Linda Ronstadt. And more recently, I'm thinking how much I really wished I would have seen her because, the news about her losing her ability to sing because I believe it's Parkinson's. But I did see her. These just a couple albums I have, of hers. I did see her because she performed one song with the Rolling Stones, Tumbling Dice. She came out and sang Tumbling Dice with the Stones when I saw them during the Sun Girls tour, and that was in Tucson. And she's from Tucson. I knew about her a lot, but at that time it was, I enjoyed her music, but I really wasn't, that into what she was doing. But now I have so much more respect for, even before I found out about what happened with her voice, I have so much respect for her singing, and I want to find that there's an album she did where all the songs are in Spanish that is, I understand, is just an absolutely beautiful album. I would love to get that, but yeah, she's somebody I really now wished I had seen a live show of her. And I certainly had the opportunities while I was living in Tucson. So there's my list of the concerts that I wished I had been able to see, or the bands I wished I had been able to see. Thank you for watching. And check out, I will have a link in the down under to Rob's channel where he has the contest outline. And as always, don't forget to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.